This is the Limo Show.
This is not another story. This is not another drill. I refuse to be another number.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Limo Show. Today I'm with my friend Micah Lambert. He's a world-class divorce consultant. He's helping guys, reframe the way they see their relationships with women, the way they see even marriage, and he's an amazing guy. Yeah, man, I'm super happy to have you here today.
Excellent, man. I'm glad to be here. It's going to be a good time.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about your story and, why you started, why a divorce consultant?
Yeah, it's like we discussed before we started this show. I went through a divorce myself about 3.5 years ago. And when I went out into the world, there were limited options for guys. Guys don't have a whole lot of options when it comes to this kind of thing. I did study some pickup and went to several therapists, and I really wasn't finding what I wanted there. So I started looking at, like I said, different modalities and ways for adjusting the human brain and behavior, and wound up in this world of consulting men.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Awesome. And let's say, you have a client right now. What is his most common, problem with like marriage and divorce?
Usually the most common problem is lack of personal responsibility. I mean, if you're talking about what are they complaining to me about, or what do I see when I look at these situations, a lot of guys will come out of a divorce or out of a long-term relationship with an attitude that this woman did this to me. And, they don't really understand that we have so much more control over this situation than what is perceived and what we've been taught. So, I do a lot of work with guys where we go down the road of looking at how you see yourself and how you show up in the world, how the world perceives you, and how much control do we have over that.
So it's a lot of mostly it's a lack of ownership. Most guys, they don't, they have like this victim mentality. They think that they've been victimized or they've been manipulated or something, or is it also?
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I think they're nice guys. There's a lot of nice guys out there. These are guys that they run mother-son relationship dynamics with women in their lives. So it's tit for tat relationships all the time, right? If I do this, she'll do that. Rather than just showing up and realizing that women, by their nature, are attracted to masculine men, you don't have to chase anything. It's just being who you are that creates the attraction level and the tension and everything that goes into relationship dynamics.
Yeah,
as long as you maintain that and you're on your purpose, then over the long haul, long-term relationships are even possible. So it's not just about getting women in bed, but about being the guy, the man that you want to be, and women show up.
Absolutely. I see a lot of guys also. I mean, you've seen it as well in the dating industry. There's a lot of guys that, work too much on the technical stuff, on like manipulating women a little bit at the beginning, but they don't focus on having the great foundations, like the real, deep masculinity mindset of like working on yourself and knowing thyself, like knowing deeply who you are and what you stand for, what kind of man you are, what kind of values you have, and really like being adamant about it with women. Because a lot of guys, I feel, and you've seen it as well, you told me, they compromise themselves too much, right?
Yeah, it's even more than compromise. They don't even know who they really are. They're like a flag in the wind. If a woman comes along, they immediately jump into her frame or mindset in a mental thought process of facilitating connection, and that's not how connection is built. We've been That's how, you keep your mother happy. That's not how connection is built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So what thing you wish you knew before getting married?
Holy crap, everything, man. Everything.
Like top three, for example.
Top three. I think the number one for me, the concept that women are attracted to men that do what they want. And I mean that in not as a selfish asshole, but as on your purpose. If you jump into a relationship with a woman and all of a sudden you lose your purpose, you got to think about it, dude. That's kind of a raw deal for her. She falls in love with this guy, builds attraction with this guy who is doing what he wants and living his life. And you get into a relationship with her and all of a sudden you pivot and pedestalize her and make her into the most beautiful thing in the world. That's not what she signed up for. She never asked you for that. That's not even part of the game. But something like 80% of the guys that come through my program are those very guys. They pedestalize the women in their lives, and women don't want that. They want a leader. They want, a masculine frame to follow and fall into. And if I'd have known that when I was young, I think my life would have been considerably different.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Phenomenal answer. But I was wondering, okay, so let's say you're not can you have a masculine frame after you've already established that you were a nice guy? Like, can you go from nice guy in the relationship to flipping it around and, having a masculine frame? Do you think you can, or do you need to establish a masculine frame from the start, or it's over?
I think you need to establish masculine frame at the start, but I don't believe that it is a game ender if you haven't. I think if you're with a good woman, and a woman who understands, a woman that wants to be in her feminine, she's probably bitching at you all the time to step up and be masculine and be in your frame anyway. So that can be a simple process for a guy just to change his mindset and step into this new frame. But, and that's a big but, there is a reality that a lot of guys are paired with women who are not meant for them, that they have fallen into the woman's frame, and once they reset that masculine frame, both parties find that that's not what they were looking for. Mm-hmm. So there's a high probability that you will come to some realizations as you step into this masculine frame and start to become self-aware and self-actuary and self-accepting that may not be so pleasant to the woman that you're with. Yeah,
a lot of the ideas that you're saying, I read a book called, and I guess maybe you read it, like The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. Awesome.
Yeah, I've read that book.
Yeah.
That's an excellent book, by the way. I'm not really into the spirituality component. I'm much more analytical and atheist about my approach to the whole experience.
Yeah.
But I try to sterilize it and look at it from a very rational thought process, as opposed to getting off into the spiritual weeds, which are very challenging to have a logical conversation about.
Mm-hmm. He relates to you a lot about like having your purpose. How do you think guys can, reconnect with their purpose?
That is the biggest challenge, right? Is how to find your purpose. But I find that when we let go of the things that we should do and start looking at what we want, not what we don't want, but what we want. Because if I ask you, what do you, tell me what your future looks like. 10 years in the future, what does that look like? Most people will start out with the things that they don't want. Well, I don't want to be old. I don't want to be poor. I want to have this. I want to have that. But typically they'll start with what I don't want. Mm-hmm. And if you approach the world from a what do I want mindset and start looking at scenarios that would fulfill you in this moment, maybe not your future, but in this moment, then you start to realize what your purpose could look like. And I find that as we start to facilitate some of these new ideas, we change and our purpose changes. The goal here is to find something that fulfills you and not other people around you. And I know that sounds selfish, maybe even a bit solipsistic, but that's how the world operates, really. The most successful are people who found their passion. You may not have a passion. Your passion may be stacking cash and having millions of dollars in the future. So right now it's time to buckle down and work toward that. That's a purpose. You're driven towards something deeper than a goal and further than a dream.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Yeah. And so there's a lot of inner work as well. Like they need to sit with themselves and really answer those questions deeply, right? They need to answer like what kind of men they are, what kind of life they want to live, what are the ideals companions for that life. And most guys, in these days, they don't sit with themselves anymore. Like life is so frenetic that they don't actually take the time to define exactly, their worldview, the type of life they want to live. And so in your work with guys, do you have like a phase where you ask them to answer those kind of questions deeply, or how do you guide them to define what they want?
I find that by just teaching men especially, the concepts of being self-aware or consciousness, and some strategies and tools around mindfulness, you start to develop those natural inward-looking behaviors, right? I'm surprised, blown away every single day by the guys that I work with who don't realize our own level of consciousness. The idea that, we are actually looking at ourselves, picking up information through a filter, and we have the ability to respond instead of react, having some emotional mastery and some consciousness of what our perception of this reality is, as opposed to what our emotions and subconscious minds have triggered for us. I think once a guy starts to realize what he really is and who he really is, that purpose and those deep thoughts about oneself and self-acceptance come pretty easily after that.
Yeah, true. And so true, man. And you were talking about marriage, and Albert Einstein, he said, he has a famous quote, and I don't know what you think about it, but I'd like to have I'd like to know what you think about it. He said, women marry men with the hope that they will change, and men marry women with the hope that they will never change. And so what do you think about that?
I think that's a very impractical view of human behavior. We may think along those lines, and that might be a true statement, but in actuality, we know that is not how this works, right? Mm-hmm. This conversation I'm having with you will change you. Your conversation with me will change me. In every and any given second, we're constantly changing. We're fluid individuals. So the idea that, I believe it works more like this. I believe that women fall in love with the potential of a man, and men fall in love with the memory of a woman. So it's not that women come into the dynamic and say, hey, I'm going to change this guy, but on a subconscious level, they fall in love with what he could be, which is part of, I think, our natural biological attraction. The best gene pool selection process would say that women would want to be able to fall in love with a man's potential, and men would want to fall in love with the memory of the girl, right, as opposed to the 65-year-old that they deal with every single day.
Yeah, man, love this quote. I just
I think there's some truth in it, but not so much.
Yeah, I just wrote it down. It's a beautiful quote. So you said men fall with women with the memory of who they should be, you said, and women marry who they were. Okay.
Yeah.
and women marry men with the potential that they could have.
Correct. I think that's very common mindsets that show up in male-female dynamics.
Mm-hmm. That's great, man. Yeah, yeah. There's a saying also, like, women, they want a man that will show her, brighter days and better ways.
Yeah, I think women actually look at the world. Women like being around guys that create higher emotional experiences. Positives, pluses. One of the speeches I give talks about this concept that women actually learn from positive reinforcement and men learn from negative reinforcement. So things that create reward and pleasure in a woman's experience are the things that she learns from and wants to repeat. Things that create pain and unpleasant situations for men are the ones that we don't want to. We learn from those quicker. It's like if we go out on the savannah and we're successful every time our hunt, we're going to find something harder and bigger to chase and kill, right? Mm-hmm. And when we start to fail at that, that's when our creativity comes out. That's when we really find new ways. Where women, if they make mistakes and get too creative in the gatherer mindset, they bring home something poison, everybody dies. In our scenario, maybe lose one guy. So women are much more driven by the positive than the negative.
Yeah, and it varies, right? Because some women are more fine. Depends on the individual, but yeah, I'd agree that mostly it's true. So what is the 3 top advice that you would give to someone that is about to get married?
About to get married, stand your ground, right? So these are part of some of the rules I've developed. Never supplicate, which means never beg, never ever beg. If she doesn't want to do it, just do it yourself. And eventually you're going to figure out she's either your girl or not your girl, one or the other. Number 2, never capitulate. If you make a statement and you say this is the way it's going to be, stand your ground. Women want a leader. They do not want you to back down. Even if they're fighting you really, really hard, they don't want you to back down. Listen to rationale, of course, but standing your ground is very, very important. And then number 3, I think the most important thing is realize that humans have an agenda. I know people will say, I don't know if that's right. I don't have an agenda. Everyone has an agenda, whether it's simple survival or it's gathering resources. Know that humans have an agenda, and then you will start to see it. It'll start showing up for you. So to me, those are the 3 base, and you'll notice everything that I do and my advice, everything is geared more around you finding you, as opposed to me giving you a prescription of exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm. Love it, man. Love it. That was dope. Those 3 was dope too. I'm sure the listeners are loving it right now. So I was wondering, if you were from all that you've seen, from all the work that you've done with guys and marriage and divorce and even your own life experience, if you were the dictator of the universe, would you advocate marriage? Would you ban it? Would you would you eradicate marriage or not, and why?
I wouldn't eradicate marriage. I think that the way the system is set up right now has some major flaws because of the legal connotation and the contractual obligation that is created. But I believe people by nature, humans, are built and geared to pair bond, right? There's some chemical reaction that happens, the serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, that hits our bodies when we're in contact with the opposite sex or whatever our proclivity is towards sexuality, that causes us to want to be with them more. And for some, it's about raising children. For some, it's about security. But I believe deep down in our lizard primal brain, there's a desire to be pair bonded and connected. I do believe that marriage gives men the security of paternity and women the security of monogamy. So there's something to be said for that as a social structure as well. But I don't believe that marriage is some kind of strictly social institution that is negative for men and positive for women. I don't believe that. I believe that it benefits both parties and it does have some inherent value.
Yeah, but don't you think that in the West, especially in the United States, the marriage rules and the way the way the government and the laws work, they're very beneficial to women in case of a divorce or something, like with the alimony, with all of that. What do you think about that?
I think that is shifting slightly, and honestly, the court systems are just a bad place no matter what your gender. But we do see that in the statistics, we see that it is definitely not financially or emotionally beneficial for men on so many levels. It's a contract. Again, it's a legal binding contract for an event that is an emotional experience. There's a lot of negatives.
So yeah, so you would advocate it anyway for someone that is like really in love with his other half?
I don't know. I would have to, it's such a case by case scenario, Limo. It's it's not, you can't just say, hey, marriage is a pile of garbage and I wouldn't advocate men getting married at all, because there is some need for financial protection and legal protection for children in that environment. If you get killed and you're not even in a common law situation, your family would be challenged to maintain assets and lifestyle. There's a lot of issues there. If you become incapacitated, do you fill out 10 different contracts? Yeah, that's a potential. It works for some people, but it's also highly risky depending on the person you're getting involved with. If you're a well-developed man, then I think maybe you can make better choices when it comes to mate selection. And there's potential that a marriage is something you can have without fear. But the way it's set up now, unless you really know your partner, I mean, really know them, I don't see the benefits to it.
Yeah. And what do you think about the biological aspect? Because I've read a lot of books about, men's biology, and you too, you must know a lot of shit about that. So like in a lot of books, they say that, if you're a male that has alpha genes, like you're wired to be kind of like, you have like some great genes and you're great. I mean, you're a leader, etc. Because you have those traits, you have a lot of, usually you have a lot of success with women, so you have a lot of options. And evolutionarily, we didn't really evolve, like, I mean, in the caveman's time, etc., to be monogamous. Like, the chief of the tribe or the leader of the tribe, he would bang every hot chick in the tribe. You see what I mean? Like, he doesn't care. So what do you think about our evolutionary aspect of, like, the evolutionary aspect of monogamy versus non-monogamy in men?
I believe that my understanding is that by nature, men do lean toward the monogamous mindset. If they don't have children, then they are going to be out and be prolific, right? But if they do have children, then monogamy is important because they don't really want to get into a long-term care strategy for children while the woman is non-monogamous and bringing other men's children into that environment. All of a sudden, your resources then are depleted by raising another man's kids. So patriarchy is very important in this process of monogamy and non-monogamy. When children are involved, men by nature want to create a monogamous environment. Women enjoy the benefits of that monogamy for the sake of security.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see monogamy showing up in our society now, is it creates security for women. They know that this man is not going to have children with another woman and decide to pair bond with her, and that keeps him in the game as a provider, and some different thought processes that go through the woman's head. But for men overall, I think monogamy is a protection to paternity. So if you're thinking about raising a family, then you've got to build some kind of moral structure or fabric to make sure that you can get these children at least to adulthood before you wind up splitting up and creating other concerns, dual resource scenarios where you can't afford to keep both of your families alive, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And what do you think of guys that, they have children with a woman, but they also have sex with other women? Like they keep this monogamous relationship with, it's not really monogamous, but it's monogamous with her only. Like he doesn't tolerate that she sees other guys, of course, but he can because he has so much, so much fame, so much value, so much resources that she tolerates the fact that he has sex with other women, but she doesn't.
So we're talking about a masculine open relationship where the man has the ability to go out and do whatever he wants, and the woman stays home and takes care of the children.
Exactly. What do you think about that?
I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody here and say that that's a terrible lifestyle, but I will say that a woman that is staying home and taking care of children while her man goes out and does whatever he wants is running the risk of losing that man. So she has some type of strategy built right in her head, whether it's because of the marriage contract or because of familial attachments, her family, or that she's going to wreck his reputation in some way, right? Mm-hmm. She's getting some security out of that, as well as what she needs physically, probably, while this guy goes and does whatever he does. But that doesn't look like a strong, connected relationship to raise children under. It doesn't make sense to me to run that much risk of loss of the patriarch and the family to another female, another family, and still be able to raise normal, productive children in this world. Mm-hmm. So I think that all depends. Culturally, we see, some European countries where this is the norm. There is also some theory out there that men who gain a certain level of power feel entitled to multiple women, whether that's true or societal. I mean, whether that's part of our primal or whether that's societal, I don't know. I don't have enough information to speak to that. But I think if two people can find a way to make things work and still provide their children with what they need to become productive adults, I say knock yourself out, go for it. I just don't know very many of those that work where the man is open and transparent and the woman is fully accepting. I don't know if that can work. There's some, dynamics around female competition anxiety that create problems with that whole scenario. I just have never seen it successfully pulled off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even in religion before, for example, in Islam, even in the books, they say that you can marry, up to 4 women, for example. And for centuries, people would tolerate it. And women, a man, it would be normal for a man that has, a certain level of power to have a harem of like 4 women. And it would be totally normal, and they would be faithful to him. And it would be even like encouraged.
Yeah, I think we're talking about 2 separate scenarios now, though. That's the first scenario was that this guy would have a wife and children at home and then philander in any way that he saw fit out in the world. Where this scenario based around religion and the polygamist mindset is this man is committed to care for these women in some capacity, provide a roof over their head and make sure that their children are fed, right?
So if it's like that, if he cares and he provides resources, like he loves each one of them, but he's gonna still have sex with whoever he wants. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I can't necessarily, like I said, I can't knock anyone's system for getting through life. I
Yeah.
just don't see a lot of success in those type of scenarios.
Okay. Hmm.
If we did, they would still be mainstream and part of society.
Yeah. True. And because there's also this theory of hypergamy where if the guy has so much value, he can basically afford to have, he can basically have multiple girlfriends because actually he has a lot of pre-selection and social proof, etc. Like a girl would love to be the third girlfriend of Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt rather than the simple girlfriend of a random average Joe. See what I mean?
Yeah, I do. This sounds like some maybe Rollo Tomasi's mindsets,
Exactly.
where a woman would rather share a high-powered man than stay with a low-powered man.
Yeah.
It's
Because you can see celebrities even in the States, they have this kind of lifestyle.
yeah, I do believe that women have a hypergamous mating strategy for sure. I mean, men have a concept of unlimited access to unlimited women, and women have a mindset of, is this the best I can do? Their hypergamy says, am I in a position where this is the best I can do? So yeah, if a woman can be third string to Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah, that's probably the best she can do.
Hmm. Interesting. Awesome, man. So just a quick question. I'm just curious. Would you get married again?
It's got to be situational. I can't say, yes, I think that's a great idea, because I don't. Or I can't say, no, I would never do that again. Never say never. I'm very open to the possibility of a lifetime commitment to someone. I think the way my mindset is now is more like go with the flow. If it works, it works, and when it doesn't, change it.
Hmm. And I was wondering, with these evolving times of it seems like there's a sexual Darwinism taking place right now with like Instagram, social media. Girls have so much more options that before, internet and social media, and even guys. And so it seems like, even the idea of marriage, I don't know, it's kind of getting underrated. There's a lot of dynamics changing in the whole dating and even marriage, etc. World. So what do you think? What do you think are the evolving tendencies? Regarding that.
I do believe that you're correct in your assertion that there is a sexual Darwinism in the way society is developing right now. The like you say, the Instagram girls that throw pictures up and get thousands and thousands of followers, they have more options. But if we look at standard 80-20 rules as they apply to sexuality, there's still a lot of guys out there that are texting with girls and not getting laid. There's still a lot of girls out there that are chasing the same guy. 20% of the men have 80% of the sex.
Yeah.
That's the way the evolutionary system works, right? The high functioning dominant males get the majority of the sexual experience. My whole goal with the guys in my world is to bring them up into that 20 percentile. Show them ways, simple ways, things like physicality. Did you know that in the United States, 80% of the male population is overweight and 60% is obese? So just by getting out of the overweight category, you step into the top 20 percentile.
Mm-hmm.
Simple processes to bring you into what this new and modern experience supposedly is. I think our primal brains, and I think the way that we build attraction and the way that we are driven toward each other hasn't changed at all. Women have these attitudes about men, but modern men are also not dominant. They are not assertive. They are passive aggressive at best. And when a man shows up with confidence, I don't care what he looks like. If he shows up with confidence, he's comfortable how he's dressed. He knows who he is and is on his purpose. He's attractive. I mean, I used to hang out with this kid, and I'm not kidding. He was like 5'6", 260. He wore a polo shirt and shorts everywhere he went. I mean, everywhere, all the time. But he knew exactly who he was. And he was not attractive, not to women, not to men, not to anyone. But his personality and the way he showed up in the world, he got women all the time. It was ridiculous. I was blown away by it. But it showed me something, that it's about your confidence level and how you show up in the world that creates attraction. And women are still women, men are still men. That part of us that drives to each other is primal. It's in our lizard brain. It's part of our subconscious experience. So we can talk about all the changes and everything that's happening in societal issues with online dating and swipe dating. All of that is ways for that 80 percentile to get out and interact. But if you want to be in that top 20 percentile in the food chain, it's behavioral. You can meet your woman at a Starbucks, in the frozen food section, at the bar. It doesn't have to be the way that society says it has to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a skill set also. I mean, most guys think, they're gonna magically become that person that is attractive to other people in terms of lifestyle, communication, and even masculinity. But you need to work on yourself. It starts with yourself, and it's a deep inner work and outer work. But it starts with the mind. And I like what you said about the fact, the 80%, 20% thing, because I have a quote that I always say. It's like, women want to fuck with men that other women desire. It's the same. Women want men that other women desire and other men admire. And it's exactly that.
Yes.
I mean, they want a leader of men. They want a guy that has, options and is doing something and is, on his purpose,
Yeah, I think that leads us into maybe one of the most important concepts that men can have, and that is the abundance mindset. Anytime we get hung up on the idea that we have to supplicate or we have to change our viewpoint because this is the one, this is the only, I have to do everything I can to keep this person. If you don't keep yourself and you don't keep your purpose, you won't keep a person. And this idea that you can do anything to make a woman stay with you or make a partner stay with you is in itself scarcity. It is what it is. If you are being who you are and you're staying on your purpose and she doesn't like you and wants to go fuck somebody else, she's not your girl, dude. She is not your girl. It is time for you to move on. But if you're doing what you want to do and you're living your purpose and you are a happy man and she's a happy woman, she's going to stay with you. And it's just going to be what it's going to be for as long as it's going to be.
Yeah, men need to learn more this ability to walk away. They sometimes they want to make it work. They need it to make it work, and they need to understand that if they need it to work, it's not going to work, and they need to walk away sometimes. And it's it's self-selection. It's a triage. How I see game, dating, whatever. It's a triage. You convey yourself, you communicate your value, and then either they obtain or they opt out, and that's it.
Correct, and that's the same whether it's in your first interaction when you're playing pickup or when you've been with this woman for 35 years. It's the same. You have to have the same mentality. There is never any this expectation of outcome creates that scarcity mindset. She's going to love me for the rest of my life. She might not, dude, and you'll be okay if she doesn't. Because there's 3.8 billion more women on this planet. You cannot even date all of them. There are so many women. There is so much abundance out there for partnership, connection, sex, whatever it is you're looking for. It's you have to have that mindset as you approach this and as you live with a woman. Whenever you get to that place where you feel like you have to work for it or you need her in your life, then it's not fun anymore. Then it becomes life robbing and life sucking, and the next thing you know, you're in someone else's frame and living a life that is not yours. No purpose.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up soon. I just wanted to kind of touch on just a little more about the cultural aspect. Don't you think that a lot of guys have this Rollo Tomasi, or a lot of the red pill guys, they call it the one-itis frame.
Yeah.
And don't you think that a lot of the culture, I mean, the Disney movies, romantic movies, etc., played a large role into feminizing men, or having that frame that they needed to work? See what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, I think this is what I believe. I believe that most men today have been taught mother-son dynamics in male-female relationships. You only have one mother. You can't choose another one. She has absolute control over you in your first 7 years to 8, 10 years of life, right? If you make her angry, she will make your life miserable, whether she beats you or cuts you off or abandons you or whatever the case may be. She's the only one you have. And when you take that same mental dynamic of mother-son into your male-female relationships, women do not want to be your mother. Women do not like having sex with children. They want to be in a relationship and are attracted to men, leaders. So when you use mother-son dynamics in the beginning, or you look at this thing as some romanticized, you're going to get to be open and tender and sweet with this person all the time, that's not what she's looking for. There is a place for romance, but there's also a place for leadership and a place to be that head of this beast that is a relationship. And we know this, I mean, that's part of what makes men attractive, is men who are assertive, not necessarily dominant, but assertive, and know what they want and are willing to stand up for that. In a mother-son dynamic, that does not happen. So guys go out into the world and they're looking for their mother. And they want to find a woman who loves them the way they are. They don't have to make any changes. And a woman that will take care of them. All of the sought after attributes of a good mother, instead of a good woman, a partner, someone who will hear what you're saying and understand what you're saying and give you positive feedback without trying to fix the situation. All the advice that men get in long-term relationships with women should also use those same tips and tactics in their male relationships. A good woman is someone who realizes that a man needs to be a man and has a different masculine frame than the feminine and appreciates that. We're not seeing that in our society. We see women who are looking for Prince Charming, which is some kind of emasculated male, and men who are looking for their mothers and want to get into covert contracts, tit for tat, Madonna whore complex mentalities with women, as opposed to just being the friggin' leader. Stand up and be the man and be this purpose-driven, forward-driven human being. And then the women find you attractive. So we're in a real weird situation right now where I think long-term committed relationships are far and few between because very few people understand what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Awesome. I love your answer. And yeah, I totally agree about, everything you said. And what do you think about, because, I've seen a lot of red pill guys, posting, because I follow this shit. I love those kind of subjects and like the manosphere, etc. And a lot of the guys say, we're going to evolve in, the next modern marriage will be based on, co-parenting. Like it's a kind of a contract where you're not legally married. You don't have a legal marriage, but you sign something together for parenting, and you keep your finances separate. You keep, you have maybe a residency. You have two residences, maybe one with the girl and one yourself. You see what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, you're just there to co-parent the kid, and you have a loving relationship, but you also have options. Have you heard about co-parenting before?
Yeah, I have. I don't. I mean, I understand that that's a possibility, but my crystal ball has been off for about 5 or 6 years now, so I'm not sure. But I don't see us ever breaking free from the primal subconscious way that we are attracted to each other. If we had that capability, we would see simple parts of pickup become familiar to women and then no longer work anymore. And that's not how it works. We would see social constructs and concepts start to actually physically change the way humans interact. And that hasn't happened either. So yes, we might see some morph into some societal contract of co-parenting, but I don't know that we will ever be able to break free from this idea that men and women live together as they raise children. There's some statistical data that says children who are moved back and forth, shipped back and forth between houses, never get a solid foundation. We know from the psychology world and psychiatry world that in the first 14 years, children are the most impressionable. So if we start a new process of raising children without fathers or without mothers, we wind up seeing a lot of disorders that show up as we see today. Men with bipolar and BPD and suicidal tendencies and follow through in suicide that is astronomical. A lot of that has been attributed to the way the family structure has divorce and single parents seem to have a higher rate. So I don't know. I feel like nature has a tendency to balance itself out. If we socially change to a point where we're producing negative results, evolution has a tendency to kill off that line. And the most successful is the way that it goes. So, we fight these things all the time, but not realizing that because of the way evolution works, it is what it is. So, I don't see a society where this becomes some co-parenting. Everybody, keeps their resources separate, maybe in New York City, but the state of Kentucky and, Montana, Wyoming, you're going to see traditional relationships and children and families the way they always have been. So it just depends on where you're at in the world, how it works socially. But from a evolutionary behavioral standpoint, I don't see much changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree, man. And I think Aristotle said also, what did he say? He said, I think, give me the child for the first 7 years and I'll give you the man, or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. You can definitely shape someone in those first 7 years. And we find that the best outcomes come from children who have a mother and a father, and some very traditional rite of passage type experiences that help children step into manhood, or adulthood. I don't see that changing.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the role of a dad is really to make his son or daughter or whatever the most competent, being he could be. Like, you see what I mean?
I do. I have a son. He's 23 years old, and I think the most important thing that I could pass on to him was the ability to self-learn. When you can teach your children, whether they're boys or girls, how to pick up books, how to do the research, and how to learn, it gives them, at any point in their life, it gives them the ability to change any negative experience that they've run into.
Yeah.
When, you teach a man to give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. You've heard the old saying, right?
Awesome.
And I think that's the same with our children.
Awesome. Yeah. So kind of the last question, if you could have the dinner with any 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be and why? Who influenced you, or who would you like to, be influenced from? Like, what are the 3 people?
Well, right now I like Robert Greene. I think he's alive, and I would love to just sit down with him and have a couple of cocktails and a dinner.
What's your favorite book from him?
His most current book, I think, is The Laws of Human Nature, which is pretty exceptional. That's a pretty exceptional book.
Yeah.
A lot of research, a lot of information.
Yeah, I like the last chapter about death. I don't know if you read it. It's pretty deep.
Yeah, I have. I enjoyed that as well. I liked the way he looked at it. There's a book out there. I believe the guy's name is. I could be wrong. It might be Mark Singer. It's called The Untethered Soul. That really gets in.
Spiritual book.
Yeah, it's a spiritual book, but there's a lot of consciousness concepts that I find really, really powerful, really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing, man. Yeah, a lot of people also, talked about this book. I should read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's well worth. It's a 6.5 hour read, something like that. So it's well worth the consumption. You won't hate it at all. Awesome,
man. Thank you so much. How could people work with you? Like, how could they find you, and how does it work if they want to work with you?
So I have a website you can go to. It's MicahLambert.com. That's MicahLambert.com. You can contact me there. My email is there. There's a form you can fill out there. I have a couple of different ways of working with people. I have a 6-week program that is specifically for divorce and breakup recovery that walks guys through 10 rules and some new behaviors, 5 different books to read that help a guy move past and deal with the grief and rebuilding the confidence inside his mindset before he goes back out into the dating world. I also do one-on-one coaching. You can schedule that on my website or my Facebook page, and that can be long-term, short-term, whatever anybody needs. But that's the website is the best way to get a hold of me. You can look me up on Facebook at Adjust Your Mindset. That's my company page.
Awesome. So check him out, guys.
That's the best way.
Yeah. So check him out, guys. MicahLambert.com. Awesome guy. And yeah, man, thank you so much for being here. It was an awesome talk. I wish you the best, and I hope we'll get to do that again, in the future. We never know. We might, cross each other's path one day, but yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you, Limo.